When they first began out, they just orange-pilled one or two people. But as they learned more, they kept adding more and more. The demand here is going to be absolutely tremendous. I tell you what, I've never been so positive about a facet before, and I think this one, with its inherent asymmetry, is likely to be the most ridiculous. You won't believe it. Hold on till we eliminate numbers 68 or 69. So, the fear of missing out is going to be ridiculous. You and I both know what I mean when I say that most individuals fail to grasp exactly how little of this is available for purchase. So, the market cap is $1 trillion. No, not everything is up for grabs. By the way, I'm referring to the ADS. Approximately 79% of it remained unchanged after 6 months, according to a statistic I saw recently. I believe it to be true, dear Lord. Therefore, there is actually a substantially reduced supply, and you are, as Lawrence so eloquently puts it, the demand for Bitcoin is skyrocketing, not just expanding. This spike involves more than simply monetary assets. It signifies a radical change in our view of value and investment. The orange pill effect, in which a person's first interest in something turns into a firm belief after taking it, highlights the revolutionary power of Bitcoin in the face of its finite quantity and the imminent danger of being left out as we near new heights. The potential for expansion is quite remarkable. Bitcoin's historic performance keeps surprising everyone, exhibiting incredible tenacity, which further establishes its position as a movement and an asset. It seems inevitable that Bitcoin will rise in value, what with more and more institutional investors getting involved and people becoming more and more disillusioned with conventional banking. Institutions. Asset management is characterized by the fact that people mostly seek out results. When you see something, this, for example, went up 150% last year. You boost your allocation after outperforming everything else. Almost nothing compares to the Sharpe ratio. It seems to depend on the time window you choose. However, I believe that in general, it boasts one of the highest Sharpe ratios available. As a result, it will become irresponsible not to have some. Additionally, I predict that people will brag about how well they did in it to their friends. Then there will be the men who ask their RIA or financial advisor whether they are legally responsible for any of this. No, my friend actually owns it. Everything is going swimmingly.
I see why not.
Oh, T will be the next thing the Rai says. I understand. I am no longer willing to say no. So I am going to, I'll put 2% or 5% in there. Then when those numbers double, there'll be a larger percentage. And then they'll wonder why we weren't heavier or how we managed to stay airborne. Why weren't there more of them? This is all too familiar, isn't it? And in the end, it's Gresham's law, isn't it? I mean, we've already discussed it, you and I. Someday, this will be the only thing you possess, or so the dream goes. Hyper-Bitcoinization is here to stay. There is a problem with the timeline which is difficult to determine, but it will happen eventually. In all likelihood, it will arrive before 2030 or 2035. It might happen in a flash, One of the things that really piques my attention is the rapidity with which events unfold in this setting and the ways in which social media have altered the playing field are topics that we have not yet addressed. For the sake of argument, I will only provide one example that I feel is quite pertinent. Silicon Valley Bank, was all right until it wasn't. We had a virtual bank run on the internet. It was a single day when $45 billion worth of deposits were lost. Okay, so there was a little panic among some major Silicon Valley venture capitalists. Now, I'm not saying that all of that will happen to Bitcoin tomorrow. What I am saying is that in this day and age of instantaneous news and social media, what I mean is that imagine if Bitcoin crossed 100,000 on its path to far higher figures. What I mean is, I suppose the point I'm trying to make is that it might happen faster than we think. I was astonished by how soon Silicon Valley Bank failed. They sold off some bonds fairly quickly once a few individuals noticed their balance sheet was a disaster. Their equity was negative. After two venture capitalists figured it out, they contacted a third group of investors. Within 3 days of spreading the word, all of the deposits had disappeared and they were suddenly insolvent. It's mind-blowing. My point, then, is when everyone realizes the U.S. Treasury is in the same boat. Can you fathom what might happen? As Jerome Paul just informed us, this leads to, unless we find a way to fix the problem, they will eventually reach that conclusion. The deficit for this year was $2 trillion, and it's only going to get worse. I mean, there was a $500 billion deficit in the most recent quarter. I'm estimating 2.5 months for this year. Possibly 3 trillion. Things have spiraled out of hand. The situation is completely chaotic. That is, in fact, what people all around the globe are starting to understand. The stock market's performance over the past year has taken me by surprise. We're experiencing a tiny crack-up boom. I apologize, but you are aware that the Federal Reserve has the government just needs to step up its spending. It has gotten completely out of hand. You can obtain my most recent quarterly report at no cost by visiting my website. One of the most intriguing charts in the research demonstrates that you are aware ours was the feeding the federal government of the United States spending about $4 trillion prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic drove it up to 7 at its height. You would think, all right, it's now. The COVID crisis has passed, hasn't it? Thus, perhaps government expenditure would decline again, reverting to a combination of lower government expenditure and higher interest rates makes up 6 parts. But the main thing is that they push the debt until next year's January. Until next January, there will be no debt ceiling. Now, you know how Biden and his allies are trying to maintain their grip on the federal government? A lot of these jobs are being produced or are government employment. The government is holding things together because they keep being re-elected despite spending like crazy. It's mind-boggling, and it's causing ripples in the bond and stock markets that continue to amaze me. But eventually, people will figure it out, and then they will seek out safe havens. Bitcoin, hands down, is the premier safe haven. Gold serves as a secondary sanctuary, Because it hasn't been functioning properly as of late, I've grown really irritated with it. I predict that Bitcoin will reach a new all-time high. It is now testing but is not yet broken out. Probably by the middle of summer, if not sooner, given the current trajectory. I must say, it's very remarkable. In all my years, I've been a sucker for gold. I will always be the money guy. It was awesome when Bitcoin appeared, then Safe wrote the book, and then your entire generation started repeating, von Mises to me. I've been fighting this struggle for a long time, to be honest. Wow, I can't believe that. What gave rise to this? The reinforcements have come. I've got these young adults in their 20s and 30s who understand the fourth termers among you will be the ones to put things right. For someone like myself,